In the flickering light of a dimly lit room, the soft glow of a computer screen illuminated a face that bore the marks of curiosity, intertwined with a hint of desperation. Alex Morgan, a once prominent cybersecurity expert, now found himself precariously perched on the edge of the digital abyss, teetering between hope and despair. Outside his window, the world thrummed with the vibrant sounds of a bustling city, alive with the chatter of pedestrians and the distant wail of sirens. Yet, within the confines of his solitary sanctuary, he was engulfed in a profound silence that echoed his deep-seated feelings of isolation. In his quest for answers and a renewed sense of purpose, he had been inexorably drawn into the shadowy underbelly of the internet, the dark web of realm where anonymity reigned supreme, and the lines of morality became increasingly blurred. Months had slipped by since Alex had lost his prestigious position at a renowned tech firm, a casualty of a scandal that had left him discredited and ostracized from the very community he once championed. His once bright future had dimmed into a haze of regret and self-doubt, leaving him with a gnawing sense of failure that clawed at his insides. In his desperate search for redemption and a chance to reclaim his shattered identity, he stumbled upon whispers of the dark web's alluring and dangerous landscape, teeming with secrets, illicit trades, and hidden communities. It was within this digital labyrinth that he believed he could rediscover not only his identity but perhaps even a renewed sense of purpose. As he delved deeper into this shadowy world, Alex discovered forums filled with encrypted discussions, marketplaces bustling with illegal wares, and a sense of community that transcended the anonymity of the users. He was captivated by the intricate web of connections, the myriad stories of individuals who sought solace or escape in this digital sanctuary. The allure of power and knowledge enveloped him, igniting a fire in his belly that had long been extinguished by the weight of his past failures. One fateful night, while navigating through a particularly obscure forum, he stumbled across a user who went by the enigmatic name Cypher. Their posts were laced with cryptic messages and tantalizing hints about a hidden network that promised untold secrets and unimaginable power. Intrigued and compelled, Alex reached out, initiating an exchange that would irrevocably alter the course of his life. Cypher was a master of manipulation, their responses calculated and precise, leading Alex down a rabbit hole of encrypted codes and clandestine operations that both thrilled and terrified him. Days morphed into weeks as Alex became increasingly obsessed with deciphering Cypher's messages. He immersed himself in discussions about a digital heist that could shake the very foundations of the financial world, a meticulously crafted plan that required a team of skilled individuals, each possessing their own unique talents. The thrill of the challenge was intoxicating, and for the first time since his fall from grace, Alex felt a spark of life reignite within him. He was no longer just a disgraced expert. He was a player in a high-stakes game that could redefine his existence. As the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, Alex was introduced to his teammates, a brilliant hacker known as Raven, whose skills could breach any system with ease, Ghost, a master of social engineering who could manipulate information as effortlessly as a skilled puppeteer, and Viper, an ex-mercenary with a vast network of contacts on the darker side of the law. Together, they formed a bond forged in secrecy and ambition, united by a singular goal: to execute the heist and expose the corruption festering within the financial sector. The plan was intricate, a complex tapestry woven with threads of deception, risk, and the tantalizing promise of reward. They would infiltrate the servers of a powerful corporation, embroiled in money laundering and human trafficking, siphoning off evidence and funds in a bid to bring the perpetrators to justice. Each member of the team had their own reasons for joining the cause, but for Alex, it was an opportunity to prove his worth and reclaim the narrative of his life that had been so cruelly rewritten. As the day of the heist loomed closer, tension mounted like a taut string ready to snap. They communicated in encrypted messages, their clandestine meetings held in dimly lit cafes and abandoned warehouses, each encounter charged with a sense of urgency and purpose. The clock was ticking, and with each passing hour, the stakes grew ever higher. Alex felt the weight of the world pressing down on him, the fear of failure mingling with the exhilarating thrill of the unknown. He was on the precipice of something monumental, and he could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins like a potent drug. The night of the heist arrived, shrouded in a blanket of darkness that seemed to wrap around them like a cloak. They gathered in a cramped, dimly lit room, monitors aglow with lines of code and intricate maps of the corporation's digital infrastructure. As they executed their plan, the atmosphere crackled with intensity and anticipation. Alex's heart raced, each keystroke a step closer to their goal. But as they breached the first layer of security, alarms blared and chaos erupted, shattering the fragile calm they had worked so hard to maintain. In a split second, everything unraveled before their eyes. The corporation had been tipped off, and they were walking straight into a trap. Panic surged through the team as they scrambled to adapt to the rapidly changing situation, but Alex's mind raced with possibilities. He could turn back, save himself, and escape the impending disaster that loomed over them like a dark cloud. But the faces of his teammates flashed before him, their trust in him unwavering, and he knew he could not abandon them. In a moment of clarity, Alex initiated a countermeasure, utilizing his expertise to redirect the alarms and create a false trail, buying them precious moments to regroup. It was a gamble, but it was one he was willing to take. Ghost and Raven worked frantically to extract the data they desperately needed while Viper kept watch, his instincts honed from years of survival in a ruthless world. Alex felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders, and he understood that failure was not an option. Just as they retrieved the final pieces of evidence, the door burst open, and armed security personnel flooded the room like a tide of chaos. Alex's heart sank, but in that moment of despair, he rallied his team. "We fight together," he shouted, his voice cutting through the panic. They sprang into action, a whirlwind of movement and adrenaline. Viper led the charge, using his combat skills to carve out an escape route, while Ghost and Raven covered their retreat, their training kicking in as they moved with precision and purpose. In the midst of the turmoil, Alex felt a surge of clarity wash over him. He was no longer just a disgraced expert. He had transformed into a leader, a protector, fighting for not only his own redemption, but for the lives of his teammates. As they navigated the labyrinthine corridors, he pushed aside the fear that had once consumed him, embracing the thrill of the fight, the exhilaration of defiance. They burst through the exit, the cold night air hitting them like a wave, invigorating and terrifying all at once, and sprinted toward the getaway vehicle waiting in the shadows. Breathless and exhilarated, they escaped into the night, the city lights blurring into a kaleidoscope of colors as they left the chaos behind. But the victory they had achieved was bittersweet, for though they had the evidence they sought, the cost of their actions weighed heavily on their shoulders. In the days that followed, as they meticulously released the information to the public, the world erupted in outrage and disbelief. The corporation faced intense scrutiny, but the shadows of the dark web loomed larger than ever. As Alex watched the news reports unfold, a complex mixture of emotions swirled within him: pride, relief, and a gnawing uncertainty about the path they had chosen. They had achieved their goal, but they had also stirred a hornet's nest of danger and retribution. The dark web was not merely a sanctuary, it was a battleground, and they had awakened forces that would not easily be silenced. In the aftermath of their audacious heist, Cypher reached out to Alex once more, their cryptic messages hinting at deeper connections and greater threats lurking just beyond the horizon. The allure of the dark web was undeniable, a siren's call that tugged at his conscience, but Alex understood the true cost of his newfound power. He had stepped into a world where trust was a rare commodity, and betrayal lurked in every shadow, waiting for an opportunity to strike. As he sat in front of his computer, the screen casting an eerie glow on his face, Alex found himself at a crossroads, a pivotal moment that would determine his future. He could choose to continue down this dark path, embracing the thrill of the chase and the intoxicating power that came with it, or he could seek redemption in a different way, one that aligned more closely with the values he once held dear. The choice was his to make, but the implications of that decision weighed heavily on his conscience, a burden he could not ignore. In the end, Alex chose to walk the precarious line between light and dark, positioning himself as a guardian of secrets and a seeker of truth in a world rife with deception. The dark web would always be a part of him, a constant reminder of the fragility of morality in a society driven by power, greed, and anonymity. And as he continued to navigate the shadows, he understood that the real challenge lay not in the heist or the escape, but in the choices he would make in the days to come, choices that could either lead him toward salvation or deeper into the abyss. The journey was far from over. In the depths of the dark web, new stories awaited, new challenges beckoned, and the shadows would continue to dance around him, whispering secrets he had yet to uncover. Alex Morgan was no longer just a man seeking redemption. He was now an active participant in a complex game that transcended the boundaries of the digital and the real. A journey into the heart of darkness where the true story was just beginning to unfold. In the heart of San Francisco, nestled between the bustling tech startups and artisanal coffee shops, lived Ethan Cole, a 28-year-old cybersecurity analyst. With tousled brown hair and thick-rimmed glasses, he was the quintessential tech nerd, often lost in lines of code and cybersecurity protocols. He had always been fascinated by the darker corners of the internet, the places where anonymity reigned and morality blurred. Ethan worked for a reputable cybersecurity firm, Sentinel Technologies, where he spent his days fortifying networks against cyber threats. However, his nights were often consumed by a different obsession: the dark web. It was a realm of secrecy, a hidden layer of the internet that could only be accessed through specific software, the most famous being Tor. This obscure world was home to everything from illicit marketplaces to forums discussing hacking techniques and conspiracy theories. One evening, after a long day of thwarting phishing attacks and advising clients on best security practices, Ethan decided to venture into the dark web. He donned his virtual reality headset, a tool he often used for immersive cybersecurity simulations, and initiated the Tor browser. The familiar loading screen appeared, and his heart raced with excitement and trepidation. As he navigated through the hidden pathways of the dark web, Ethan stumbled upon a forum titled The Underbelly, a gathering place for hackers, whistleblowers, and those seeking to expose the truth. Intrigued, he clicked on the link and was greeted by a series of threads discussing everything from government conspiracies to high-profile data breaches. Ethan spent hours scrolling through the forum, absorbing the discussions and the shared knowledge. It was here that he first encountered a user named Spectre. This enigmatic figure claimed to have access to sensitive information about a clandestine government project known only as Project Nebula. According to Spectre, this project was a covert operation involving surveillance and data collection on citizens without their consent. Ethan's curiosity piqued. He had always been a proponent of privacy rights and was wary of government overreach. The thought of a project that potentially violated civil liberties made his blood boil. He began to interact with Spectre, asking questions and probing deeper into the details of Project Nebula. Days turned into weeks as Ethan and Spectre communicated through encrypted messages. Spectre shared snippets of information, cryptic clues that hinted at a vast web of corruption and deceit. The project involved high-ranking officials, secretive corporations, and a network of hackers willing to do anything to keep the truth hidden. Ethan knew he was treading dangerous waters, but the allure of uncovering a major scandal was too tempting to resist. He decided to dig deeper, using his skills to gather evidence and piece together the puzzle. As Ethan delved deeper into the underbelly of Project Nebula, he began to notice unusual patterns. Files were disappearing from government servers, and certain individuals seemed to vanish without a trace. His investigation led him to a website that appeared to be a marketplace for stolen data, a place where sensitive information was bought and sold like commodities. Ethan's heart raced as he browsed through the listings. Personal data, financial records, and even government secrets were up for grabs. It was a chilling reminder of the power and danger that lay within the dark web. He knew that to expose Project Nebula, he needed to gather concrete evidence. Using his cybersecurity expertise, he crafted a plan to infiltrate the marketplace. He created a false identity, a digital persona that would allow him to interact with the sellers without revealing his true motives. After weeks of preparation, he was ready to make his move. With his Tor browser open, Ethan navigated to the marketplace. The interface was sleek but ominous, with listings for everything from hacked social media accounts to classified government documents. He felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the extent of the operations taking place in the shadows. Ethan communicated with several sellers, expressing interest in purchasing data related to Project Nebula. He was careful, ensuring that he didn't raise any suspicions. After several exchanges, he finally managed to gain access to a seller who claimed to have insider information. The seller, known as Ghost, demanded a hefty price Bitcoin, of course. Ethan had prepared for this and had acquired a small stash of cryptocurrency. He negotiated the terms, ensuring anonymity and security in the transaction. After what felt like an eternity, the deal was struck, and Ethan received a trove of documents that detailed the inner workings of Project Nebula. As Ethan sifted through the files, his heart raced. The documents revealed a chilling reality. Project Nebula was not just about surveillance. It involved manipulating public opinion through social media, planting false narratives, and even orchestrating cyber attacks to discredit dissenting voices. Ethan's hands trembled as he realized the implications of what he had uncovered. This was bigger than he had ever imagined. The very fabric of democracy was at stake. He knew he had to act quickly, but he also understood the dangers that lurked in the shadows. Before he could formulate a plan to expose the project, Ethan received a message from Spectre. It was terse and urgent. "They know. Get out now." Panic surged through Ethan as he realized the gravity of the situation. He quickly closed his laptop, his mind racing. How could they know? Had he been tracked? He grabbed his phone and checked his surroundings, but everything seemed normal. He needed to get out fast. As he stepped outside, the cool night air hit him like a wave. He hurried down the street, glancing over his shoulder. The city felt different, as if shadows were closing in around him. His heart pounded in his chest as he made his way to a nearby cafe, a place he often visited to think and plan. Inside the cafe, Ethan ordered a coffee and tried to calm his racing thoughts. He needed a plan to expose Project Nebula, but he also needed to ensure his own safety. He decided to reach out to a trusted colleague, Sarah, who worked in investigative journalism. She had a knack for uncovering the truth and had experience navigating sensitive topics. Ethan met Sarah the next day at a park, choosing a public place to discuss the gravity of the situation. He explained everything he had uncovered, from the dark web marketplace to the details of Project Nebula. Sarah listened intently, her expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "This is huge, Ethan," she said, her brow furrowing. "But we need to be careful. If they know you're onto them, they won't hesitate to silence you." Ethan nodded, fully aware of the risks. "I want to expose this, but I need your help. You have the connections and the resources to take this public." Sarah agreed to help, and together they devised a plan. They would gather more evidence, corroborate the documents Ethan had obtained, and prepare for a full-scale investigation. The stakes were high, but they knew the truth needed to come out. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Sarah worked tirelessly, reaching out to whistleblowers, digging through public records, and gathering testimonies. They uncovered a network of individuals involved in Project Nebula, each more corrupt than the last. The more they discovered, the more dangerous their mission became. One night, as Ethan was reviewing documents at Sarah's apartment, he received an anonymous message on his encrypted phone. "Stop now, or face the consequences." The message sent chills down his spine. It was a warning, a clear indication that they were being watched. Ethan shared the message with Sarah, and they both knew they had to act quickly. They decided to go public with what they had: a press conference that would expose the truth behind Project Nebula. They reached out to trusted journalists and activists, building a coalition of individuals who shared their commitment to transparency and justice. The day of the press conference arrived, and Ethan felt a mix of excitement and dread. They had gathered a crowd of reporters, activists, and concerned citizens, all eager to hear the truth. Sarah stood by his side as she introduced Ethan, who was ready to reveal the dark secrets of Project Nebula. As he spoke, detailing the surveillance tactics, the manipulation of public opinion, and the involvement of powerful figures, Ethan could see the shock and outrage on the faces in the crowd. The truth was finally coming to light, and it felt liberating. But as the conference concluded, a sense of foreboding crept over Ethan. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. He glanced around, noticing a group of men in suits standing at the edge of the crowd, their expressions unreadable. In the days that followed, the fallout from the press conference was monumental. News outlets picked up the story, and Project Nebula was thrust into the public eye. Investigations were launched, and calls for accountability echoed across the nation. However, with the exposure came a wave of backlash. Ethan and Sarah received threats, warnings to back off or face dire consequences. They knew they had made powerful enemies, but they also knew they couldn't turn back. The truth had to prevail. As the investigation unfolded, Ethan found solace in the support of the community that had rallied around their cause. Activists, tech experts, and everyday citizens stood together, demanding transparency and accountability. Months later, Ethan stood on the steps of the courthouse, surrounded by supporters. The investigation into Project Nebula had led to several arrests, and the public outcry had forced reforms in surveillance practices. It was a victory, but Ethan knew the battle for privacy and civil liberties was far from over. He had faced the shadows of the dark web and emerged into the light, but the journey had changed him. He understood the importance of vigilance in the digital age and the need to protect individual rights against encroaching powers. Ethan continued his work in cybersecurity, but now with a renewed purpose. He became an advocate for digital rights, speaking at conferences and educating others about the dangers of unchecked surveillance. The dark web was still a realm of danger, but it also held the potential for truth and justice. As he looked out at the crowd gathered to support reform, Ethan felt a sense of hope. Together, they had fought against the darkness and emerged victorious. The shadows beneath the surface would always exist, but so too would the light of truth. Years later, as Ethan sat in his office, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The world had changed, with advancements in technology and a growing awareness of privacy rights. The dark web still held its secrets, but it had also become a platform for whistleblowers and activists fighting against corruption. Ethan continued to advocate for digital freedom, understanding that the battle was ongoing. He had learned that the shadows of the dark web could be daunting, but they could also be a source of strength for those willing to seek the truth. In the end, it was not just about the fight against surveillance. It was about empowering individuals to reclaim their privacy and dignity in an increasingly connected world. And as he prepared to address a new generation of cybersecurity students, Ethan knew that the fight would continue, but they would face it together in the light and against the shadows. In the heart of Silicon Valley, where the glow of screens illuminated the dreams of countless tech entrepreneurs, there was a shadow that lurked just beneath the surface. It was a world that thrived on anonymity, a realm where the rules of society bent and twisted, and where the darkest corners of human desire could be explored without consequence. This was the dark web, a place where secrets were currency and knowledge was power. Lila Hart was a gifted coder, her fingers dancing across the keyboard with a fluidity that seemed almost supernatural. By day, she worked for a prominent cybersecurity firm, crafting firewalls and algorithms to protect clients from the very threats that the dark web harbored. But by night, she was an explorer of the unknown, drawn to the allure of the hidden internet like a moth to a flame. She was fascinated by the stories of those who traversed its depths, and the thrill of discovery was intoxicating. One evening, while sipping her coffee in the dim light of her apartment, Lila stumbled upon a forum dedicated to the exploration of the dark web. The posts were filled with tales of adventure and danger, of people who had uncovered secrets that could change the world. Her heart raced as she read about hackers who had toppled corrupt governments, whistleblowers who had revealed corporate malfeasance, and activists who had fought against oppression. It was a world that felt alive, pulsating with the energy of rebellion and defiance. Compelled by a mix of curiosity and ambition, Lila decided to dive deeper. She created a pseudonymous identity, Cypher, and began to navigate the labyrinthine pathways of the dark web. Her first forays were cautious, exploring forums and chat rooms where hackers and activists congregated. She learned the lingo, absorbed the culture, and began to understand the unwritten rules of this hidden society. As weeks turned into months, Lila's reputation as Cypher grew. She became known for her technical prowess and her ability to decode complex encryption. She found herself at the center of a growing community, a network of individuals united by a shared desire to expose the truth. But with each new connection, she also felt the weight of the dangers that surrounded her. One night, while perusing a particularly obscure forum, Lila received a private message from a user named Spectre. They claimed to have information about a powerful corporation that was involved in illicit activities, including human trafficking and cyber espionage. The message was cryptic, but the implications were staggering. Lila's heart raced at the prospect of uncovering such a significant story. After several exchanges, Spectre agreed to share the information, but only under the condition of anonymity. They arranged to meet in a secure chat room, where Lila would learn the details. As she prepared for the meeting, a mixture of excitement and dread washed over her. She knew that the path she was choosing could lead to danger, but the journalist in her craved the truth. The chat room was dark, the screen flickering with the glow of encrypted messages. Spectre's avatar appeared, a shadowy figure cloaked in anonymity. Lila felt a chill run down her spine as they began to share the information. They spoke of a clandestine operation, codenamed Project Seraph, that involved high-ranking officials and a network of corrupt law enforcement. The implications were staggering, and Lila could hardly breathe as the pieces fell into place. But just as Spectre was about to reveal the final details, the chat room was flooded with a barrage of messages. It was a coordinated attack, a digital ambush. Lila's heart raced as she realized they were being targeted. She quickly initiated her exit protocols, but the attackers were relentless. In a matter of moments, the room was overrun and Spectre disappeared from the chat. Lila's pulse pounded in her ears as she frantically attempted to secure her connection. She knew she had to get out before they traced her. With a swift keystroke, she severed the connection and shut down her computer. The room felt suffocating, and she could sense the shadows creeping closer. In the days that followed, Lila couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She took extra precautions, using VPNs and Tor, but the paranoia gnawed at her. She knew too much, and the stakes were higher than ever. She reached out to a trusted friend, Marcus, a fellow coder who had always been skeptical of her nighttime escapades. She confided in him about Spectre and the information they had shared. Marcus listened intently, his brow furrowed with concern. "You need to be careful, Lila. This isn't just a game. People can get hurt, especially those who dig too deep," he warned, his voice laced with urgency. But Lila's determination was unyielding. She began to dig deeper into Project Seraph, piecing together the fragments of information she had collected. She scoured public records, news articles, and any data she could find that might corroborate Spectre's claims. The more she uncovered, the more she realized the scope of the operation was far-reaching, and it extended into the highest echelons of power. One evening, Lila received an encrypted email from an unknown sender. The subject line read, "We know what you're doing." Her heart sank as she opened the message. It was a warning, a threat veiled in anonymity. The sender claimed to be watching her every move and advised her to abandon her investigation. Fear gripped her, but it only fueled her resolve. She couldn't turn back now. Determined to expose the truth, Lila decided to go public. She reached out to a journalist she admired, a seasoned reporter named Elena Vasquez who had a reputation for tackling tough stories. After a series of tense conversations, Lila agreed to share her findings, and Elena promised to protect her identity as a source. As they worked together, Lila felt a sense of camaraderie with Elena. The journalist's tenacity was inspiring, and she admired how Elena navigated the complexities of the media world. But as they delved deeper into the investigation, the threats escalated. Lila received more ominous messages, and she could feel the pressure closing in around her. One night, as Lila sat in her apartment, a sudden noise jolted her from her thoughts. Her heart raced as she glanced toward the window. Shadows danced outside, and she could have sworn she saw figures moving in the darkness. Panic surged through her as she grabbed her phone to call Marcus, but the line was dead. The power flickered, and she felt a surge of dread. In that moment, Lila realized that she was in over her head. The web she had woven was tightening around her, and the darkness was closing in. She had to act fast. With trembling fingers, she sent a message to Elena, urging her to take the story public before it was too late. Before she could hit send, her computer screen went black. The room plunged into darkness, and she heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. Her heart raced as she scrambled for her emergency bag, filled with essentials and a backup drive containing all her research. She had to escape. Just as she reached the door, it burst open. A figure loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the dim light. Lila's breath caught in her throat, and she felt a wave of terror wash over her. But she was not going to go down without a fight. With a quick movement, she ducked past the intruder, sprinting down the hallway. She could hear their footsteps pounding behind her, but adrenaline coursed through her veins. She burst through the front door and into the cool night air, her heart pounding as she raced down the street. Lila's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. She needed to find safety, to get the information to the public before it was silenced forever. She remembered a safe house that Elena had mentioned, a place where they could lay low until the story was ready to break. She sprinted toward it, her breath coming in ragged gasps. As she reached the safe house, Lila pounded on the door, her heart racing. Elena opened it, her expression shifting from surprise to concern as she took in Lila's disheveled appearance. "What happened?" she demanded, ushering Lila inside. "They're coming for me, Elena. I need to get the information out," Lila gasped, her voice trembling with urgency. Elena nodded, her demeanor shifting into professional mode. She quickly gathered her equipment, preparing to secure the story. Together, they worked through the night, piecing together the evidence Lila had gathered. The weight of the world rested on their shoulders, but Lila felt a sense of purpose. They were fighting for something bigger than themselves, something that could change lives and bring justice to the shadows. As dawn broke, they finalized the article, ready to expose the corruption that had festered in the darkness. With a final click, Elena hit publish, and the story went live. Lila felt a mix of relief and fear wash over her. They had done it, but the danger was far from over. In the days that followed, the story exploded across the internet. Outrage surged as the public learned of the atrocities hidden behind the veil of secrecy. Investigations were launched, and the corporation at the center of Project Seraph was thrust into the spotlight. But with the exposure came the inevitable backlash. Lila received more threats, each one more sinister than the last. She knew that the shadows would not rest until they silenced her, but she refused to be afraid. She had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, armed with the truth. As the investigation unfolded, Lila found solace in the support of her community. People rallied around her, sharing their own stories of corruption and abuse. The dark web, once a place of fear and danger, transformed into a platform for truth and justice. Lila had ignited a movement and the shadows began to recede. Months later, as she stood before a crowd of supporters at a rally, Lila felt a sense of hope. The fight was far from over, but she had learned that even in the darkest corners of the internet, light could shine through. The shadows of the unseen had been exposed, and together they would continue to uncover the truth. In the end, Lila realized that the dark web was not just a place of danger, it was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. She had ventured into the depths and emerged with a newfound understanding of the power of information, the strength of community, and the importance of standing up for what is right. The journey had changed her, and she was ready to face whatever came next, armed with the knowledge that light could always triumph over darkness.